But we are about to get going racing, ladies and gentlemen. The drivers have been given a speed limit of 81 miles per hour. As soon as that goes green, we are off racing and away they go. Tim Stahl gets away very, very cleanly from the two Colombians, already jockeying for position between themselves, maybe trying to figure out who's going to attack. Raven Plummer, they're also looking to get involved, but there is some carnage there. I see drivers going off left and right. That is Estefano Barrera, and I see Jaden Harrison tumbling down the order. I'm not sure if contact was made between the two of them, and Noble Racing is now nowhere to be found. Tim Stahl gets away clean with Raven Plummer just behind. Stephen Pommel's trying to get into the mix along with Via Vicencio. It's happening already, Kale. I cannot keep up. This is mad. We should be going back to racing conditions right about now, ladies and gentlemen. And Raven Plummer already getting away very nicely there. She had the reaction time ready for Tim Stahl, who has to come through in second position. There is more carnage, it looks like, in the background there, and away we have gone. I'm not sure which drivers have lost out there, but Felipe Gil already making up a position on Stephen Pommel. They're the two neck and neck heading down to turn 4, and they are running quite wide on that exit curb, and there's some more chaos back there. Not sure what just happened.
Mikhail Charles crosses the line as well, and they are almost 3 wide. That's Vince Da Silva, Mikhail Charles, and Belvedere into the first corner. It's all popping off here. The JSRA racing team seems they don't seem to be a team at all. They're absolutely racing through some of these corners here.
There
as
goes
we see Villa Vicencio getting it a little bit wrong there, going deep into that right-hander, but keeping it on the track, which is all that matters at this point in time. Not waiting about up there at the front of the grid, perhaps a little bit more comfortable with this Trackland Road Atlanta, but we can see Mikhail Charles and Michael McName. They have Vincent Da Silva behind them. This would be the perfect opportunity to work together, extend that gap, and towards the end of the race, battle it out for track position. But I don't think they're thinking about that at all right now.
Yeah, no.
Mikhail Charles ahead, heading through the right-hander. Mikhail, they're going a bit deep. Michael seems to have gotten the better run, and they're side by side now, coming up the hill into a very tricky braking zone, and it's a right-hander that is very awkward, especially with these cars on these brakes. Both of them keeping it cleanly through there and live to fight another day. But I don't know, why are these teammates battling so early on?
Yeah, no. We will keep an eye on these two, but maybe they will wise up knowing who is behind them, because Tim Stahl, again, ladies and gentlemen, was the man on pole, had an incident in the second restart and finds himself tumbling down the order, and is right now lost it there on the exit of 4. He manages to keep it pointing in the right direction, and he will soldier on. Sorry, Kim.
And is managing to hold his own, it seems. There in 17th, Roger Keller here a little bit on the back foot in the last position here, trying to make a move on Stephen Pommel's heading down into the first corner. Stephen there with the Optimum Racing line kind of parks the bus there and closes the door on Roger Keller. He'll have to try again.
Right now, he may not be looking ahead, he needs to be looking behind, as Tim Stahl is on the offensive, and they are neck and neck heading up towards turn 8, sorry. And still neck and neck. Yeah, no, still neck and neck heading down the back straight here. Who is going to be braver on the brakes when we get to the chicane? I think Tim might have the better line here to take the advantage, and sweeps across the cover off that move, gets it done, and Mark Anthony Eaton finds himself losing out to Tim Stahl.
Further up the order in P6 is Mikhail Charles, about to make it P5, as he looks to be getting very close to the back of Ramiro Dominguez. There they are, nip and tuck through the final chicane. Dominguez not getting a proper exit and allows Mikhail Charles to finally put a car between himself and his teammate Michael McName. He moves himself now up into P5. An excellent race for the Trinidadian thus far.
But Raven Plummer now on the back straight, heading towards the line, drove, I think, An almost perfect race from the restart, got the jump on stall and just never looked back, you know, kept it clean. And here she comes to cross the line to take victory for JSRA Team A in the first race. Felipe Yil and Estefana Barrero will come through for Noble Racing in second and third to round out the podium. Iman Rayan manages to hold on to P4 with the charging Mikhail Charles behind him to take P5 for JSRA Team B, and Michael McName comes across P6. Tim Stahl, a recovery drive there to, you know, get himself back into the points, and takes P7 via Vicencio P8. Senna Somerville takes P9. The Silva crosses for P10. Luis Daniel Velez comes across a P11, and Mark Anthony Eaton will take the final point on offer in this race in P12.
To get to their speed limit of 81 kilometers per hour. Keep that speed there until we see the green flag to go racing for another 18 minutes of racing action here at Donington. And they are away, and we can already see there in the background 4-5 wide coming down the start-finish stretch. But it's going to be Senna Somerville going around the outside of Vincent da Silva to take the lead of this race early on here. It's Carlos Villavicencio now in P3, Tim Stahl keeping his nose clean there in P4, Mikhail Charles and Michael McName in P5 and 6, nip and tuck as they were in the first race. Mikhail Charles trying to get by Tim Stahl there. No inter-team orders between those two drivers for JSRA Team A and C. Estefano Barrera and his teammate Luis Felipe Gil in P8. And well, they were P8 and P7, but Barrera getting past Michael McName there through turn 9. Now coming up over the hill to start the back straight, and it's Tim Stahl still in P4 trying to get past Carlos ahead of him, and he's almost side by side. It looks as though Mikhail Charles wants to get involved in this action, but it's going to be Senna Somerville. An excellent race start for him here in the Radicals, and Tim, they're almost side by side. A bit of contact between himself and the Venezuelan, and he finds himself into P2, but there was some contact there. And I do believe that Carlos Villavicencio is going to be filing some sort of complaint as Michael McName and Mikhail Charles pushing each other up the track there into the turn 1. It's 4 wide into the first corner. Of course, there's going to be a little bit of carnage, and there's a Jamaican driver sideways, no backways, rolling back onto the grid. But Vincent da Silva, who was P1, manages to get through it cleanly, and it's only the second lap of this race. And
my eyes are on Tim Stahl right there with Senna Somerville. He got the advantage of the safety car bunching the field up, but we are a go racing, ladies and gentlemen. Senna Somerville getting the drive, but Tim looks to be getting racy immediately with Senna Somerville, who has to be positioning his car in a defensive manner right away as Tim Stahl is on the charge, and Felipe Yil right behind will be watching these two, wondering, will somebody get it wrong for me to pounce and get a victory here for Noble Racing in the second race? There is some contact there between Senna and Tim Stahl, and the contact continues all the way around to turn 8. Stahl there going wide, and exactly what I said would happen did happen. Felipe Yil comes out of turn 8 with the lead of the race. Stahl there tumbling down the order, and now it's on Raven Plummer to try and repeat what she did in the first race. Vicencio seems to have gotten it wrong there coming out of turn 5. but Raven Plummer and Felipe Yield up ahead. Raven and Felipe side by side. Who is going to come out ahead? I think Felipe had the better line there, but Raven might have gotten the power down a little earlier and gets a better drive down the straight, pulls out of the slipstream. They are going to be neck and neck going into the chicane, but I think Felipe covered that off very, very nicely. But Raven once again getting the better drive down the straight and pulls out of the slipstream one more time. Can this be the time she gets the move done to take the lead of the race? The two are side by side going into turn one. Raven on the outside, Yield on the inside, and Felipe I think will keep it again. Senna Somerville there getting it wrong on the exit and finds himself tumbling down the order. The lead, we have a three-way battle here going on. Mitchen, Wallace, Bell and Lopez all fighting for that 10th position. Some contact there from one of the drivers.
And Kusuma Putra there making that drastic move from the left hand side of the track to the right hand side to go down the inside of Michelle Wallace. He's still there ahead. Michelle is with him, and Kimani Eastman there in the background trying to pick up the scraps, and Michelle Wallace is going to have to concede that position. No, he does not. They're still side by side, and I think Johan now just edging ahead. Can Michelle make something happen here heading into turn 8? He does try to make a move up the inside, but thinks better of it.
Yeah, no, the fighting is still happening up and down the order here as Tim Stahl is trying to get himself back into the points paying positions, currently battling with Roger Keller there. A ways to go before Tim can get back into the points, but we only have 5 minutes of racing action left at the moment. Stahl getting back by Roger Keller there. The two are still side by side. Stahl I think will have the better drive into the chicane, takes that position away.
Just perhaps nerves getting the better of them before those points paying position there. It was P5, 6 and 7. Now Ceballos now drops down to P8 and fighting with his countryman Luis Daniel Velez, who I think may have a little bit of a pace advantage and moves around the, well, it was the inside. It turned to the outside for corners number 4 and heading now into 5, and Luis Daniel Velez finds himself up into P8. Tim Stahl moves up past Roger Keller. We saw that move actually heading through the final chicane there, and it's going to be Raven Plummer trying to get past Felipe Yield there, but these two so equally matched for pace. It seems that it's you make a mistake or you're gonna lose that position. But if any positions are gonna be made or any overtake is going to be made here, it's going to be a blink and miss type situation.
And we'll see which one of those rivals manages to come out ahead by the time we get to the line, and that is Mikhail Charles, I think, going off there, getting it all wrong, coming up to turn 9 and loses out. So that gives Daniel Velez a clear path to attack Bell with Iman Ryan still behind, keeping abreast of the situation. But time has elapsed, ladies and gentlemen. I am not sure if the drivers in the lead started that lap. I believe that lap should be the final lap for Yield and Plummer. And those two drivers.
Yeah, about that Chad Plummer here, still trying to make something happen. The gap is virtually nothing between them, 2/10. If even so much. He's trying to go around the outside here into turn 8, but Felipe placing that car excellently and not giving her the light of day to make the move work. Raven here, I think, is going to apply maximum pressure, sitting firmly in that slipstream. She pulls out to the left-hand side. Does she have enough speed to pull up alongside and disturb him heading into the final chicane? They'll be side by side heading into the final chicane, but Felipe will have that inside line, and Raven will have to follow suit. She doesn't get the run that she would like heading up to the line, and I think that's going to be a win for Felipe Yield. Victory for the Venezuelan, victory for Nova Racing in the second race. Raven Plummer, an excellent race from her, but bested by the Venezuelans once again. Stephen Hummels picking up the scraps for JSRA Team C. Eman Ryan fought and held off the position from Mikhail Charles, Ramiro Dominguez, and Johan Kandra Kusuma Pantura. Sorry, Kusuma Putra. I don't know, I keep trying. Excellent race there from Johan. Ceballos with the P8 finish, followed by Luis Daniel Velez, Grant Bell, Kimani Eastman in 11, Vincent Da Silva in P12, the final points paying position. Michelle Wallace seemingly getting up to speed in the final moments there of that race, coming across the line in P13. Andres Lopez in P14, Roger Keller in P15. Tim Stahl unable to do much more than he did. That recovery drive not panning out how he would have wanted, finishes P16. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. We are back. Thanks for joining for the third round of the Chase for Pace team series. Thanks for joining on YouTube and on the Sportsmax app. My name is Kelvin Roper, and alongside me is Chad Dillon.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As Kale mentioned, we are in the third round. This is a team championship, and we take the third round over to the land down under in Ventnor, Australia at Phillip Island. This is one of the few counterclockwise tracks you will see in this particular series, and it promises to be an exciting one as this is a very high speed track that should give us some good racing action, and certainly we are keeping our fingers crossed that we have calmed down a bit in the week that we have had off, because going by the last race we did have a very action packed first event and second event, more so the second event actually. But yeah, no, here we are in round three. The drivers are currently in the driver briefing, which is why you see all of them sitting in the pit lane, so they are being given whatever instructions are necessary. And so we will get going with qualifying in 11 minutes and change.
That's right, folks. It's as you said, Chad, 11 minutes until practice, and we have, I guess, another 11 minutes to prepare ourselves for, well, the third round in a series of races held on some of the most iconic and challenging tracks around the world. Each event is structured to test the drivers' abilities to adapt and conquer, with a mix of technical circuits and high-speed layouts, such as this one here at Phillip Island, ensuring a diverse racing experience. Expect heart-pounding action, fierce competition, and unforgettable moments as we navigate the twists and turns of each unique venue. About 10 minutes now left in the free practice session, and it's the last 10 minutes out of 1 hour and 30 minutes that we move into a 15-minute qualifying session, which will decide the starting order for the first of two 20-minute races, the second of which is a reverse grid, meaning that the top 10 finishers will be reversed in the order that they finished the first race in. So in the first race, if you finished in first position, you will start the second race in 10th position. If you finished in second, you will start in ninth, and so on and so forth. And we were just talking about Phillip Island, Chad, 4.4 kilometers. It is one of the only anti-clockwise circuits we'll be visiting. 12 corners of high speed. Well, I don't want to say madness, God forbid,
Yeah,
after the last event,
no,
but it's
let's
going to
not
be
call that
something
down.
special here in the Radical SR3 XXR.
Yeah, no, certainly. I've just been looking up and down the timing sheets, and we are in for another doozy. The top four drivers with their best times overall during the lead up to the event, not necessarily today. The practice servers have been open for about a week, and so they've had time to dial in their setups, prepare for the race, run their different race simulations, quali simulations, setups, testing, all of that. And I'm looking up and down this timing sheet, and the top five, about 3/10 of a second in it, 2/10 of a second in it between the top five, and all the way down to the top 12 are within a second of each other. So yeah, certainly this is going to be an exciting one, and some of these teams will be looking to claw back some points in the overall team standings, which are Noble Racing leads this championship on 90 points, JSRA Team A in second position on 54 points, JSRA Team C in third on 39 points, Arteta Racing on 25 and a half, JSRA Team B on 18 and a half, and GT Panama on 17 and a half. So Noble Racing, Kale, has dominated in the first two events. Those Colombians looking rapido in the start of this competition. So we will see if any of the other teams can take the fight to them. JSRA looks to be in a position to try and, JSRA Team A that is, looks to be in a position to try and claw back some of the advantage, but it's gonna be tricky because I'm looking at the practice timing sheets, and who sits at the top right now? One more of the Colombians in Estefano Barrera. So certainly the work is there to be done for the other teams to make any kind of mark in the lead that Noble Racing has pulled out so far. But this could be the round to shake things up, because this is not your very typical racetrack. It is one of those that the technical corners aren't so much there. It is, I say that you still do have to do a lot of setting up and sacrificing around this racetrack, but it is very high speed. You spend quite a bit of this layout very, very flat. And so it's, when I say it's not your typical racetrack, you don't get your chicanes and your double apexes and all of that, but you certainly do get a different feel of what the drivers can do from a layout such as this one.
It definitely reminds me of Silverstone in its high speed, low downforce nature. We have a couple of corners that remind me of, Brooklands, to around the back end of the track. We see a left, right, left section that mimics Margaret, Beckett's and Chapel. But going back to the talk of the team game here, Chad, I mean, Nova Racing is definitely the team to beat here. The likes of Luis, Philippe, Gilles, and Estefano Barrera, hard carrying Nova Racing Team A. Those guys in P1 and P2 respectively. I'm sorry, it's Luis and Estefano Barrera in P1 and P2 for Nova Racing Team A. And for JSRA Racing Team A, it's Raven Plummer currently sitting at third in the standings. And I have to be scrolling quite a bit here to find the next JSRA Team A member, which would be Jaden Harrison, who is currently in eighth position in the championship with less points than a driver for JSRA Team C. So, as evidenced by the previous Chase for Pace event at Donington Park, it can be pretty chaotic here. We have a lot of drivers on the grid, all jockeying for positions, fighting for their own points and for their teams. But I think it's about time that specifically JSRA Team A and Team C, those teams need to start thinking about the team championship, because if they want a chance to, bring the fight to Nova Racing Team A, they're definitely going to have to start working together. Last time out, we saw the likes of Mikhail Charles and Stephen Pommel's battle. I think that was the fiercest battle
Yep,
around
you are
the
correct.
entirety of Donington Park, and those two drivers are teammates. So, no love lost between them. But we definitely want to see them come back into it. Raven there carrying JSRA Team A in PFU 35.5 points. Jaden Harrison is going to want to at least finish this race or both of the races. He's been looking pretty good thus far, currently sitting in P2 on the leaderboard. His best time, a 129.808. So this is free practice. I'm looking at the times throughout the entire week. The server would have been reset a couple of times to iron out bugs and so on and so forth. As a matter of fact, it's Mark Anthony Eaton with the fastest time of them all. It doesn't show on the screen now, but looking at my data here, he at some point throughout the week managed to set a 1 minute 29.7, which is the time to beat so far. So
Yeah,
hopefully we can see these times show themselves in race pace as well throughout the entire race.
absolutely. And when I was talking to Raven in her post-race interview last week, the first thing she said to me when we started the discussion about her results was she let her team down. And it shows that they are thinking about the team game, well, particularly JSRA Team A, because her entire interview was centered around the fact that their plan was a 1-2-3 with Tim leading the way. Tim Stahl, who had joined the server recently and hasn't done very many laps this week, so interesting to see if he can step up to the plate in this event. But yeah, no, in her interview she was talking about the fact that they had planned for being 1, 2, and 3, with Tim leading the way, giving the toe because he was the quickest of the three of them, and the 1, 2, 3 would have been her, Jaden, and Tim. Tim leading the way and her doing the defending from the drivers behind would have given the team a very good chance. But on the restart, Tim stalled there, looking like he got caught napping and Raven taking the lead, and that saw Tim fall down the order very, very quickly. So the plan is there to play the team game. It just did not materialize the way they thought it would. So we will certainly see if that can turn around for them this event out, because if the Colombians continue to dominate the way they have been, this championship will be wrapped up very, very soon with the Colombians walking away with the W. But we have about a minute and change to go until we get into the qualifying session. I think I hear the driver briefing wrapping up now, so you'll see some of these drivers just go out for a quick warm up, and then we will head into the qualifying session, as well as none of them may go out before the start of the quali session, but I guess we will see what their mindset is in a few minutes time. We will be looking to see the times head towards that mid to high 129 region for pole position. So that's what we'll be looking for at the top of the timing sheets. But Kale, the radical lap record around this track is actually a 125.929.
Wow.
However, the caveat there is that was an SR8. So I don't think
Oh,
we'll be
okay.
getting I don't think we'll be getting quite down to that kind of margin at anytime during this event. The SR8 carries a lot more power and downforce than the SR3 XXR, which is what we are using in this particular competition. So, yeah, no, it was just an interesting fact to note that there are lots faster cars out there that can do this track, particularly in the radical line. So, yeah, we will be gearing up to go qualifying in, well, we have 20 seconds left on the practice clock, so we will see. I don't think we'll be seeing any of these drivers go out But yeah, no, this should be an interesting event. We will see if Noble Racing continues to dominate or if the other teams can get it together and try and make something happen. Mark Anthony Eaton in particular looks to be a man on a mission. As you mentioned, he's at the top of the timing sheets and has done the most laps by over double the margin of any other driver's number of recorded laps. That is the level of dedication that we expect from the drivers here at the JSRA. You know, they do try their best to put their best foot forward in these events. It's just unfortunate sometimes to see their races unravel due to unforced errors or mistakes by other drivers. We will hope that we have a cleaner event here today, so that all of these drivers that have put their time and effort into doing the best they can, their efforts won't go to waste.
Yeah, will definitely be. I mean, after the driver briefing, where from what I'm hearing, the drivers they've realized that there are two ways to go about driving. There is what we did at Donington, and there is hopefully what we're going to see tonight here. We should see a lot more patience, a lot more better decision making skills. We all know in the heat of a battle, fighting for your team and for yourself, you see a space, you want to go for it, but you have to think about what happens when I reach into the space. Can I keep that space? Can I keep that position? So, I think, especially with the high downforce, or rather not high downforce, but high speed nature of this track, we should see the drivers, I think, rather quickly settle into their rhythm and their flow, and we should have, the clean racing that we expect, we've come to expect here at the JSRA. But speaking of just touching back on the teams game one last bit before we begin qualifying session just beginning, 15 minutes on the clock, but we should not discount GT Panama Racing Team A. Our friend from Panama, Vincent da Silva, is it's seemingly the lone Panamanian here in P5 in the overall championship with 16 points, fighting seemingly by himself against the entirety of JSRA Racing Team B and C, as well as Artito Racing Team A. They're definitely, they have a battle there going on for some points in the mid pack there. Artito in P4 in the team championship, and GT Panama in P7. JSRA Racing Team B just ahead by 1 point in P6. So, we have the Titans fighting for the top three positions. We're used to the names Barrera, Plummer, Stahl, and Gilles, but we can't forget about our friends from Artito Racing, who are definitely putting on a show for us in the mid-pack for the championship. So here's qualifying underway. We're on board with the man with the most amount of laps, Mark Anthony Eaton, exiting the pits quite tentatively there. I think he was leading, and now everyone is overtaking, perhaps just getting those tires prepped and ready to set another stonking lap. A 129.7 is it's not something to scoff at. But the likes of Tim Stahl here, who we're now on board with, is definitely going to be trying to displace him and take that throne of the fastest in the SR3 around Phillip Island. We can see they're going through the first corner. It is absolutely flat. The car is just sticking, and it's a little bit of Tokyo drift here. Tim trying to keep it planted. He's definitely pushing, but just losing the rear end there, indicating that he is also running a very low downforce setup to maximize those top speeds. Here's Roger Killo flying into turn one. Might be picking up a little bit of dirty air from the driver ahead.
Yeah,
heading into turn two now.
I am looking up and down the field, and it is very, very hard to put your car in a gap for clean air at the moment. I think these drivers need to space themselves out a little bit better to try and get clean laps in, because as you mentioned, the dirty air, it will certainly play a factor around a track like this one, where you're depending so much on the little grip that you do have, because you are running very high downforce, very low downforce, throughout the course of this lap, and these turns still require quite a bit of mechanical grip to keep that car going in a straight line. So we need to see these drivers space themselves out a little bit better to get cleaner laps in. But we are still on board here with Roger Keller. I think he may have abandoned this lap given that he got caught up there with, I'm not sure who that was ahead of him. But yeah, no, we've yet to see any laps go up on the board, and I'm still wondering about Tim. We saw him do the little drift there coming out of turn 2, I think that was, and I don't see any laps for him on the practice sheets. Estefano Barrera there coming across the line to be the first driver to complete a clean lap on a 130.3, and he is 8/10 clear of any other driver thus far. I'm sure we'll see those times come down as we progress, but yeah, the Colombians making their stamp early as per usual. But yeah, no, I am a little worried about Tim, as I have not seen any laps for him on the practice sheets, and it already looks like maybe he's trying to figure out the car around the track. I'm not sure if he's been practicing offline, maybe that's the case, but it'll be interesting to see if he can help his two teammates, Raven and Jaden, up ahead to kind of claw back some of the advantage that Noble Racing has at this stage of the game. We are almost 5 minutes down in the qualifying session, Kale, and already it is the Colombians looking like they want to take this one, but it's still early days, eh?
It's still early days, but you know what's interesting, Sean? JSRA Team C drivers Stephen Pommels and Mikhail Charles up there in the top 4. I mean, we haven't seen the times from the likes of Raven, Jaden, and Tim as yet. But with Tim being a bit of a... we're not sure if he's going to be a hit or miss this time around, given the laps we've seen him put down in terms of the amount of practice laps. Anything may happen here. Of course, Estefano Barrera and Johan there up in the top 2. Stephen Pommels and Mikhail Charles definitely ones to watch here. They seem to favor the high speed natured tracks, and they're looking quick. Raven, they're setting a time a 1 minute 31.1. We know there's a little bit more in it for her, but I mean, if this is a sign of things to come, Chad, we may be focusing a little bit more on Team C here. And here's Mark Anthony Eaton for JSRA Team B coming around the final corner now. It's going to be all out heading to the start-finish line. He comes across the line now.
And I guess that was a warm-up lap. Yeah, that was a warm-up lap. So he's starting his flyer now. There is a car up ahead. I don't know if he will be likely to catch that car. It is one of the Colombians. I'm not sure which, but maybe there's enough space there to get a clean lap in. I still think some of these drivers could do a better job of spacing themselves out, Kale, because it still looks a little bit tight between some of them, especially given the nature of this track. But we will, maybe they know something we don't. We'll see what happens when they get their laps in. But we are still on board with Mark Anthony Eaton, almost matching. Well, we've been talking here, Kale, about what we think Tim Stahl is gonna do, and Tim Stahl to the top of the timing sheets, almost matching the best time we have seen all week. So clearly, whatever our thoughts on him, he's out here doing Tim style things, but we are still on board with Mark Anthony Eaton, almost matching him in the first sector, and should be coming up to the end of sector 2 in a moment's time there, as we see a driver going off right around him, and that, I don't know if that's what cost him all of that time there in the middle sector, but he's gonna have to get another lap in where he can get a cleaner run at it as he rounds the final corner, getting very tight on the apex there in that very flat out section of the track. The final corner and the first corner are both flat out corners. Mark Anthony Eaton there coming across the line. It is a 130.9, so more than a second off of what his best time has been this week. We will certainly see if there should definitely be improvement there. We will see just about how much improvement. At the top of the timing sheets, Tim Stahl for JSRA Team A, Estefano Barrera and Via Vicencio for Noble Racing. Iman Rayander in P4, you did mention that we should not be counting out Arteta Racing. There is a driver for Arteta Racing in P4 and another one in P5, as Johannes Kandra is another driver from the Artito Racing team. So they have drivers that are showing pace here in this particular event. But Mark Anthony Eaton has gone again and has put in the quickest first sector of anybody thus far. Can he keep it going for the next two sectors? He looks to have a bit of clean air around him, so he should be okay, as he's now rounding out the end of sector 2, 3/10 down in that sector, but it is a massive improvement to his previous attempt at this lap. So right now he is still a little bit adrift of the pace set by Tim Stahl, but we will see as he rounds the final corner there if he gets any closer to the top of the timing sheets where we expect to see him. And across the line he should be going right about now. What is it? It puts him up into P6 at 130.4.
That is quite surprising. Not the fact that he moved only up to P6, but I mean, as a matter of fact, I take back my word, it's not surprising. We saw what happened at Donington Park. We had about, I think, in half of the grid within, what, half a second of each other?
Absolutely.
And if you look here, in Estefano Barrera in P2 at the moment, at 130.1 for him, another second down, and it's Roger Keller in P14. So the top 13 drivers after the top man are within 1 second of each other. That is that's crazy.
And while crazy, we have been talking here, Kale, Tim Stahl has dropped the gauntlet once again, and that is the fastest time we have seen all week, ladies and gentlemen, a 129.6. So we are flirting with the low 129s now, and there is still 5 minutes to go in this qualifying session. We're on board with Raven Plummer. She managed to move herself up to P8. She had been sitting a lot further down the order, but no, Kale, you are absolutely right. Even with that improvement, that still takes us down to P11 in terms of that 1 second mark. So yeah, no, the grid is fairly close around this racetrack. It certainly is going to be a race for the record books, as long as these drivers manage to keep it clean. But up and down the order, we are getting some blistering laps, and there is Johannes Kandra improving to P3. So Arteta Racing also reminding us that, hey, we may not have been strong in numbers early on, but we are still here. And the top 4 at the moment, separated by about 0.4 of a second. That is no margin at all, really, over the span of 20 minutes. One missed apex here or there, and you find yourself losing 1 or 2 tenths, and that lap time comes right back to one of the drivers behind you. So it looks, I guess, a little bit more aggressive on paper than it really is. But we are 4 minutes to go in this qualifying session, and the times are coming fast and furious.
That they are, Chad. But speaking of the racing and how close it should be, I'm wondering if these drivers have a separate setup for the racing, as opposed to just one setup for quali and racing. We were talking about the high-speed nature of the track, and the fact that they're running very low downforce levels for qualifying, because over 1 lap, having low downforce means higher top speeds, more momentum carried through the corners, essentially. And so it may be a little bit risky, a little bit hard on tires over 1 lap, but it doesn't really matter because it's 1 lap, right? For the race, however, 12 to 14 laps, pumping in times, not just keeping positions, but jockeying for positions. I'm wondering, will these drivers be able to, what will the racing be like if they're going to be using the quali setup? I saw Raven just a few moments ago. She was on the exit of, I believe, turn 6, and almost lost the car. So was Johannes. A little while back there, he was trying to put the power down on the exit of a corner, and I could see that opposite lock being thrown in to keep the car pointed in the in the correct direction. So I mean, if the drivers already have so much to contend with during the race, they have the other drivers around them, they have to try and keep the nose clean, avoid damage. Now they have to be fighting a car that was already trying to fight them without such a low downforce setup. So the odds really are stacked against the drivers, or so to speak.
Yeah,
They will
no.
definitely have a lot on their hands for this race, but it should all, mean one thing, and it's that we're going to have very tough, hard fought, clean racing. As I see Stephen Pommels here flirting with the track limits, dipping a tire into the grass there on the exit of the entrance to the final corner of the track. Here's Jaden Harrison, an improvement in the middle sector for him, but calling it quits on that lap. About 1.5 minutes left in qualifying. We're on board with the man in P4, Johannes Kandra, in the Black Radical SR3. Here's Mark as well, a 130.4 for him. Only good enough for P10. That's how close the field is. 300ths of a second faster, it would see him in P9, and only 1/10 faster, and he would be in P7. So the
Yeah,
margins
no.
are razor thin.
Absolutely, they are, Kale. And yeah, no, you were talking about the setup situation, and I do imagine you have to think about these things as a racing car driver, right? Because as you mentioned, yeah, the low downforce setup is great over a single lap, but I think they're also running the soft tires, which is not the race tire. So certainly the grip that you're getting out of that tire will not be the same in the race as they would be likely using the medium tire, which is a lot more durable. Does carry a slight reduction in pace advantage, so even, and then less grip on that tire as well. So certainly you may need to think about maybe upping your downforce by, I'm not going to say drastic measures, but maybe a few clicks, 2 or 3 clicks, just to kind of keep the car pointed in the right direction and make sure that you have the grip it takes to get around this track in the quickest possible way in race conditions. We will certainly see if the times take a plummet, not a major plummet, mind you, but a small plummet in the race pace, in the race trim, that is. Well, we have reached the end of this qualifying session, ladies and gentlemen, and I must say, given all of the discussions we have had, this may not have been the grid I was expecting to see heading into this qualifying session. Tim Stahl shocking everybody, not doing a single lap on the server, but puts his car on provisional pole position. Johannes Kandra, well, was improving behind him, but seems to have abandoned that lap. Jaden Harrison, no improvements happening at the moment. Estefano Barrero in Sector 1, matching the top time so far. We will see if he is on a valid lap. This should be him rounding out Sector 2 in a few moments time. We'll see if we get a time posted there, but I'll just keep an eye on that. He is flirting with the best time of Tim Stahl, I think it is, but that would certainly see an end to that. Rather unfortunate. Andres Ceballos kind of came out of nowhere there, unseating Johannes Kandra for that P4 position. We are still having a little bit of movement here on the timing sheets, but I think that should be all she wrote at this point. Johannes Kandra was improving, but as I said, I think that lap was abandoned. So this should be our grid, ladies and gentlemen. We have, what is that? I think 17 cars racing here this evening. Yeah, Mikhail Trials has rejoined, so we have 17 racers overall. And looking up and down that grid, where did Jaden Harrison find that lap? When did that lap happen? Jaden Harrison there slotting himself into P2 in the 25th hour, has managed to get himself there, making it a JSRA Team A front row. And clearly the JSRA drivers have a point to prove here this evening. Their teammate Raven Plummer sitting down there in P10, not quite matching the pace of her two teammates up ahead. But as you did mention in the pre-qualifying session there, Kale, we did need these two drivers to kind of help Raven in carrying some of the momentum of that team. So here they are answering the call. P1 and P2, Estefano Barrero for Noble Racing, right there with them in P3, just about 3/10 off pole. Andres Ceballos in P4, Johannes Candro in P5, Carlos Villavicencio P6, Luis Daniel Velez for Noble Racing in P7, Mitchen Wallace, the first driver on the timing sheets for JSRA Team B in P7, which just became P8 for some reason. I think Luis Daniel Velez just rejoined there and is in P7, having posted his time and maybe disconnected for some reason. So that puts Mitch and Wallace in 8th position. My apologies. Eman Rayan, who looked good at one point in this qualifying session, find herself down in P9. Raven Plummer there in P10. Mark Anthony Eaton, I'm a little bit surprised by this scale, I'm not going to lie, because looking at the laps he has done and the times he has posted, I expected him to be a little bit further up than P11. Stephen Pommel's the first of the drivers for JSRA Team C, down there in P12. Mikhail Charles' teammate right behind him, and those two always find themselves right near each other, and that we mentioned the battle they had last time out. We will hope that they can do a little bit better this time around. Roger Keller in P14. Eastman, McName, and Julia Brown round out our list. So first of 2 races to come, ladies and gentlemen, and the timing sheets are telling us that we are in for a doozy. All the way down to P13 are within a second of each other. That is a very tight grid.
That is an extremely close grid. It's going to be, I mean, we have 3 drivers in the 129s, and I think 5 drivers who throughout practice were able to dip there. So, that was, of course, in quali configuration. We're now heading into the race. You can see the skies above us. It's a little bit cloudy. That should help with track temperatures and increase grip as well. And drivers will be scrambling for as much grip as they can. 17 drivers on the grid, with Luis Daniel Velez there joining now 18, I believe. And we're going to have our rolling start here in one formation lap. We will see that safety car move from the back of the grid, come to the front, and lead us on our formation lap. Tim Stahl there. He is forcing you to eat your words, Chad, putting that on pole. And his teammate there, Jaden Harrison, as you said it perfectly, those drivers answering the call of Raven to come help out with the championship. She has been seemingly fighting on her own, but very close. They're not even going to say it. They're not far at all. They're right there in the rearview mirror of Tim and Jaden. It's Estefano Barrero, Andres Ceballos, and for Noba Racing, and Johannes Kandra is here, battling with the big boys for Arteta Racing. So we're definitely going to be seeing some battling here tonight. That I think it was going to be the likes of which we haven't seen as yet, because we know Tim is quick, we know Jaden's quick, we know every Colombian driver is quick, but we have not yet seen them really duel it out on track for position. And I think tonight at Phillip Island, we're going to be treated to that.
Absolutely.
So we are.
And sorry, ladies and gentlemen, if you are new here and wondered why you saw the lights go out and nobody moved, the safety car takes us on a formation lap. We will be having a rolling start for both races. This race set by the qualifying for the grid. So the safety car leads us through the first 2 sectors, and then the race pace will be dictated by the man on pole position, Mr. Tim Stahl, who, as Cale rightfully said, made me eat my words. How dare I doubt the talent that is Tim Stahl, the German driver slotting his car into pole position and will be leading us when we go green flag racing. So the safety car, as I mentioned, will take us through the first 2 sectors. Then we will be given a speed limit. As you can see, the safety car icon on the screen, that is the thing that says SC with the yellow light below it. You will get a speed limit followed by a red light, and then the green light implies it is time to duel it out on the track for these drivers. And as we are rounding out sector 2, I believe, nope, that is sector 1, that we just rounded out. My apologies. Yeah, no, I got a little excited there. I just can't wait to see the racing action that we're getting here this evening. So maybe I'm willing the cars to go quicker around the track, but the drivers trying to get some heat into their tires, prep the car, the tires, and the brakes to go green flag racing in a few moments time. And we hope to see some brilliant racing action here with half the grid being as close as they are. I'm wondering if I'm gonna see some dark horses come into play a little bit later on, whether it is because of the setup conditions or the maybe drivers a little bit further back are more consistent, looking at drivers like Mark Anthony Eaton and Raven Plummer down there in the final 2 points paying position. Points are paid all the way down to P12, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, just looking at the field as they are rounding the second to last corner now to get back to the line. The safety car has pulled away and Tim Stahl should be controlling the pace. The drivers will be lining up 2 by 2 Caleb, as we are heading into the final corner to go green flag racing.
Coming out of the final corner, it's going to be a long run heading down into the first right-hander, which is the first corner. And I think we're going to see some 2 wide, 3 wide, and maybe even 4 wide, because these cars very low downforce. They're going to be picking up the slipstream effect, and we may see I think we're going to see a change for the lead. In the very first corner, we can see the speed limit of 81 kilometers coming up now, and the red light showing that you need to maintain that speed until we have the green light running in just a few moments time now. Timon gets a good getaway, but it's a little bit too good, and it's a drive-through for jump starting that start for Tim Stahl, but he maintains the position here. Jaden Harrison on the inside. And there is Estefano Barrera and Ceballos in formation. They're trying to get by, not quite yet. They're all maintaining the status quo and very clean as you like through the first couple of corners. Tim Stahl will be, I think he'll be kicking himself for basically ruining this race for himself now, picking up that drive-through.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It looked promising as they did get away quite nicely, but Tim Stahl there just maybe getting a little too eager to try and keep ahead of the Colombians, because we all know how those drivers are extremely hard to pass. But he'll have to figure out how best to play this. I think he'll use all 3 laps to try and extend an advantage, as Jaden Harrison basically pushing him around the track. So they are playing the team game early here between
that doesn't look like a team game to me, Chad. That doesn't look like a team game at all.
Spoke too soon there, Jaden Harrison and Tim making some contact, and that will gift Noble Racing positions 1 and 2. And Stephen Pommel's there finding himself all the way up in P3 for JSRA Team C. Himself and Mikhail Charles there getting into the mix very early on. So maybe we were looking at Team A, but it ends up being Team C that's going to take the fight to Noble Racing here. And I think a safety car may have been called after that incident, as I see the drivers slowing down. I'm not sure if some other drivers got taken out in the ensuing action. So yeah, here we are, first safety car. It looked good for the first lap there, Cale. The driver was managing to keep it clean, but Jaden and Tim, they're getting a little too close for comfort, maybe trying to keep as close as possible, but Tim not getting back on the power as quickly as Jaden would have liked, it seems. So Jaden making a little bit of contact there, and that puts both of them way down the order. I see 3 drivers in the pits: Tim Stahl, Mark Anthony Eaton, and Mitch and Wallace. I'm not sure if those drivers picked up some damage in the ensuing collision there. But Jaden Harrison drops from what would have been the net lead of the race all the way down to P12 and has it all to do again. And that puts Raven Plummer as the lead driver for JSRA Team A, but only managing to be in P8 as JSRA Team C at the moment looking to take the fight to Noble Racing, maybe taking exception to the fact that we did not mention them in the heavy hitters. But this is race car driving. These drivers are all very talented and have been doing this for quite some time, so we will certainly see if they can apply any of the pressure to Noble Racing as they sit Noble Racing Team C, Noble Racing Team C at the moment. So we will definitely see some team tactics here between these two teams. We did mention Mikhail Charles and Stephen Pommels not playing the team game last time out, but if ever there was a time to play that team game, now would be that time. Maybe you won't get Estefano, but you could both get Via Vicencio and have a 2-3 for JSRA Team C, which would be some much needed points on the board for that team.
Well, Chad, speaking of the team game, my quick analysis of what happened there between Tim and Jade, and I think Tim realizing that he picked up that that penalty, he looked like he was going a little bit slow on the exit of turn 3, in my opinion, or rather turn 5. I think that is the corner now that they're heading into. I thought he might have been giving that position up to Jaden and, would take those 3 laps that he's allowed before serving his drive-through as a means of, backing up the other drivers, in a legal fashion to allow Jaden to get ahead and perhaps time that drive-through to help out his teammate Raven, who now finds herself in P8 but still the lead driver once again for JSRA Team A. But maybe a little bit of a lack of communication, maybe just not an expected slowdown. I mean, it wasn't just Tim and Jaden that collided, further down the field. There were many a change of position, but it has all resulted in Stephen Pommels and Mikhail Charles for Team C. Now in the fight, I said it before, they're battling with the big boys now, Estefano Barrera currently in P1 and his countryman Villavicencio in P4. It's going to be Noble Racing JSRA Team C, Noble Racing JSRA Team C. And I'm not sure why the timing chart is saying Mark is in P1, but that is not the case. We're going to go racing once more at the end of this countdown. We're waiting for that go, and we have it, and it's going to be a good getaway for Estefano there at the front. Stephen Pommels following suit, and we have side by side between Raven and Villavicencio. Does Raven get that move done? She's there on the, or rather, that was Brown who gets tapped on the back by Villavicencio, now causing another pileup. The drivers seem to avoid it and be on their way, and that promotes now Raven Plummer up into P5. Velez in P6, Ceballos P7, Jaden Harrison now up into P8, taking that position from his teammate who finds herself in P5. But Estefano, a good getaway for him, but he's under attack from Stephen Pommels as Jaden Harrison is trying to get past Emmanuel. Michael McName as well getting in the mix, but it's a spin for Jaden and he falls down the order. But Stephen Pommels is not letting the Colombian go, and Mikhail Charles manages to find himself up into P3 now at the expense of Villavicencio at the back of the grid now. And here's Raven Plummer almost right back up there with her teammates, or rather finds herself further up the grid now in P5. I wanted to get past Brown ahead of her in P4. But they seem to be managing it a little bit better now for at the start of this rather at the restart. My apologies.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of battling going on. All of the drivers still quite close to each other. Mark Anthony Eaton is quite far down the order. He is the only driver. Probably that's why it said he was in the lead at the time, but he is way down the order as Iman Rayan is going at it here with Andres Ceballos, who is slightly ahead, but Rayan has the better line into that corner, but outside will turn to inside. Does she manage to keep it pointing the right way and get that move done? It seems so. So Iman Rayan there gets Andres Ceballos and finds herself up into P5. Raven Plummer up into P4. I think that was Mikhail Charles having a spin from third position there. Julia Brown for Arteta Racing running in the final podium position, and I'm sure Raven Plummer will be trying her best to take that from her. Further down the order, Mikhail Charles rejoins in a crowd of cars there, and that looks like Via Vicencio right behind him, and 2 members of JSRA team, well, a member of Team B and a member of Team C. That's Mitch and Wallace and Michael McName running right in front of him there. The battling is happening up and down the order quite fast and furious as Iman Rayan is putting the pressure on Raven, who is trying to get by Julia Brown and looks to have done so in the apex of turn 10. Brown was still right there with her, but I think Raven has finally gotten that move done and gets the power down through the final corner, with Rayan now looking to put the same pressure on Julia Brown. And as you mentioned, the slipstream, Kale, these three drivers all using the slipstream, that is a recipe for chaos, but they are managing to keep it clean so far. Who is gonna be the driver to back out here? It looks like Raven had to be the driver to back out, and there she goes off the track. Iman Rayan now back up into fourth, chasing down Julia Brown, and Raven falls way down the order. And Team A is not looking too hot. Tim Stahl, the only driver seeming to get it right, and that is the driver, ladies and gentlemen, that had a drive-through penalty and was on pole and is here now in a battle with the two drivers that were previously battling his teammate Raven Plummer. Those two drivers seem to be a little bit slower than their rivals around them, but I think are playing a defensive game as they are on the same team. So maybe using the team tactics right now to keep Tim Stahl at bay to get the best finish that Arteta Racing would have had so far. But Tim there side by side with Brown, and I think that's job done for Tim Stahl as it relates to Julia Brown, and now has to give chase to Iman Rayan up ahead. Stephen Pommel's not falling away from Estefano Barrera at all, just hanging right around that 1 second mark, maybe in the hopes that a mistake is coming. But this is some fast and furious racing action, ladies and gentlemen. Andres Ceballos now the next driver that will put the offensive moves on Julia Brown, sitting in the slipstream there, heading down to turn 1, gaining, and steps out as you get into the turning point, because there is no braking point there. Just managing to get it a little bit wrong, or just switches to the inside to make sure he can cover off any maneuver there from Julia Brown. And Ceballos gets himself up into P5 for Noble Racing and will now have to give chase to Tim Stahl. Looking up and down the order, Kale, I think we've kind of settled down a bit now, except for Mikhail Charles there, looking to take the fight to Luis Daniel Velez. Mikhail Charles maybe trying to make amends for his mistake early on when he was running in P3. This is some blistering racing action that we're getting here, Kale.
Definitely, Chad. I was really enjoying that. The three female drivers here were absolutely, they had the gloves off, going almost 3 wide down the straight there, and it didn't look as though I don't think Raven backed out on her own accord. I think she just did not have the grip to take that outside line, and I saw a little bit of snap oversteer in that first corner, and it saw her end up in the grass and taking out Johannes Kandra. Unfortunately, and now finds herself in the pits, but she'll have it all to do again in the second race. Can you believe it's only 6.5 minutes left in this race? It has been an action-packed one, if ever I've seen one. Tim there taking the fight to Iman Rayan. Ceballos has been on a mission as well, getting past Julia Brown. And now here's Luis Daniel Velez trying to get past Julia Brown. And I think Mikhail is going to try and squeeze by as well. He's there in the fight. That defensive maneuver there from Julia it's going to be more defense from her now as Mikhail tries to get by. He's trying to stick a nose anywhere he can find the space to. He's trying to go up the inside of Julia, and it looks as though he gets that move done, finding himself now in P7. It was very smart of him to try and get that switch back there, but I don't think there's any difference between the quali setup and the race setup, as the drivers are very quick in the first sector where it's all very high speed turns. You just flick the car in and it goes. But in the middle sector here, where you need a little bit more downforce, we're seeing the drivers really having to throw that steering wheel around in search of grip. Here is
Yeah.
Villavicencio on the grass there and managing to keep it all together. Now, mounting pressure from McName. McName goes up the inside. Villavicencio are just unable to get that grip, and it's going to be one position in advantage for JSRA Team C.
I was about to
But
say, Kale, I think though Via Vicentia would have gotten the better drive given that McName there would have had to take a tighter line, and it is proving correct as Via Vicentia just powers past him down the straight there, whether that's a downforce advantage or the fact that he got the power down a little bit earlier. Could be both. Or can no los dos. But, you know, here we are running, and Via Vicencio takes that position away from Michael McName. Further up the order, Mikhail Charles still trying to take the fight to Luis Daniel Velez, who gets it a little bit wrong there and gifts that position to Mikhail Charles. Mikhail Charles is having a very fortunate weekend where drivers seem to be just gifting him positions left, right, and center, referring, of course, to his victory in the CTCCs yesterday. But he don't get me wrong, Mikhail Charles is doing the work because he was all the way down in, I believe, P12 and has fought himself up 6 positions back into P6, maybe working on trying to take the fight to Ceballos up ahead. Rayan has managed to keep Tim Stahl at bay for a lot longer than I thought she would. Tim Stahl is right there with her now as they're heading towards the final corner. Will this be the lap that Tim gets it done? He should have the advantage of the slipstream here coming out of the final corner all the way up the long run to turn 1, and there he steps out of the slipstream and also just powers past her as they get to the turning point there for turn number 1. And can he keep that position? Rayan there trying to look for the inside, but Tim covers that off very nicely, and I think that is job done for Tim Stahl, getting up onto the podium paying positions as Rayan loses it on the exit of the corner there and puts Andres Ceballos back up into P4. Estefano Barrera, meanwhile, has just been enjoying himself out there in the lead of the race. I am not sure who that was there pulling off. That might have been Jaden Harrison, making sure not to hold his teammate up there as he is a lap down at the moment. And this unraveled very quickly for Team A here, Kale. They did look like they were, you know, gonna put on a strong showing, and then it just, from the moment the lights hit green, it went wrong, and it has continued to go all wrong for that team. Raven Plummer sitting in the pits, no point scored. Jaden Harrison a lap down, still running, and Tim Stahl, the sole driver, looking to score points here, running in P3 at the moment. And we're still on board here with Daniel Velez and Julia Brown fighting it out. Daniel Velez, the next driver to take the fight to Julia Brown. She has been watching them come and go, so to speak, as they have just been lining up the pass right down the start-finish straight. Clearly, she might be running a little bit more downforce than her competition because they do seem to have a serious pace advantage down that start-finish straight. And so Daniel Velez takes that position away from Julia Brown, who is unable to fight back in to turn 2 and 3 as these drivers just cover off the inside line, and it is very difficult to find any other way around there. But yeah, no, we've been getting that action up and down the order, King.
Yeah, there's not much you can do there heading into that first corner. But speaking of action, Michelle Wallace just got 2 in 1, it seems, moving up into P9 past McName and Villavicencio. Mikhail Charles, not sure what happened to him. He finds himself now back down into P12, seemingly making another mistake. But Julia Brown definitely making herself, putting herself in candidacy for driver of the race. She found herself up into P3 at one point in time and has been defending marvelously. But fortunately, the nature of this track is that if you find yourself with a driver too close behind you, coming up to the final corner, there's not much you can do. You're pretty much a sitting duck. But Estefano Barrera is not sitting or standing. He is absolutely running away with this race, setting the fastest lap at 130.0. Stephen Pommel still in P2. He is seemingly dropping back a little bit, but the race is almost done. 30 seconds plus 1 lap, I think. And we always say, Chad, barring catastrophe, this is looking like a win for Barrera. Some excellent points on a podium for Stephen Pommels and Tim Stahl managing to do damage limitation for JSRA Team A up there in P3. Ceballos carrying home decent points for Noble Racing as well. Not yet, unofficially, in P4. Velez in P5 and Iman. My goodness, she has put down some blistering times as well. Some excellent racing and finds herself in P6 right ahead of Julia Brown, who is looking to try and get past her if she can keep Roger Keller behind. This is the closest battle at the moment.
Yeah, but all
Is
three of
Julia
these
Brown.
drivers, Kale, are on the same team, so you would think, this is a good points haul for Arteta Racing running 6, 7, and 8. Take those points home, just support each other through the remainder of this race. We have about one lap to go as Estefana Barrera is about to cross the line to start the final lap. But the three of you have one more lap of driving to do to take home some decent points. I think, barring Noble Racing that runs 1, 4, and 5 at the moment, that might be the best points haul for any team in this particular race. Stephen Pommel's taking home some decent points for Team C running in P2, but I think he is the only driver at the moment scoring points. Michael McName also scoring a few points, my apologies, as is Mikhail Charles scoring 2 points. So yeah, but in a competition where the team game is important, I'd like to think those drivers would try and keep just hold position, hold station, and take it home. You're not under threat from behind, so just keep it together. But we will be checking in with Estefana Barrera, who has roughly one sector to go. He will be heading towards the end of sector 2 up the hill through turn 8, I believe that is, down to turn 9. And he just did the job you expect of him at this point. Estefana Barrera just constantly keeps his nose clean and is blisteringly quick. As you mentioned, he set the fastest lap previously. One corner to go for Estefana Barrera and Noble Racing to take yet another victory in the Radical Cup Series. He comes across the line just about now there. Estefana Barrera once again on the top step of the podium. Pommels will cross the line in P2 to take home some decent points for JSRA Team C, and here comes Tim Stahl across the line to do damage limitation, as you rightfully said, Kale, for JSRA Team A. Ceballos and Daniel Velez to make it another significant points haul for Noble Racing. Iman Rihanna, Roger Keller, and Julia Brown did hold station to come across the line. 6, 7, and 8, a decent set of points there for Arteta Racing. Via Vicentia crosses the line in P9 for Noble Racing. McName will come across the line to give JSRA Team C a few extra points. Mikhail Charles will take home 2 points for Team B and is the only driver to score points in this event for Team B. Mikhail Charles will take home the final point for Team C, and I'm not sure what that was. I don't want to know. Kimani Eastman will come across the line in P13. Mark Anthony Eaton 14th. Johannes Kandra will cross the line in P15. Jaden Harrison will wrap up the finishers in P16, as Raven Plummer will not complete this event 6 laps down and sitting in the pits. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes race number 1. We will have the top 10 reverse grid coming up, where Michael McName will be starting from pole position with Via Vicencio alongside him, and the drivers that finished outside of the top 10, the likes of Jaden Harrison, Raven Plummer, Johannes Kandra, Mark Anthony Eaton, will have some work to do in the second race to try and score some amount of points for their team this weekend, given that we expected a lot more from some of those drivers that are way down the order, Kale.
Yeah, it was pretty clean, all things considered. So, the drivers finishing in any position there, of course, there's a bit of luck involved, avoiding any, the 1 and 2 accidents that may have happened along the way throughout the 20-minute race. But, Estefano managed to come across the line in P1. Tim started on pole, found himself way down the order, and still managed to come up to P3. It's not just about luck. It's not just about
Speed.
avoiding accidents. It is about us. It's not just about speed, rather. It is about keeping your nose clean as well and picking your moments correctly. And I think, Tim, there is an excellent example of what happens when you do that to a very good level or good standard. We see the likes of Ceballos, Velez, and Villavicencio. I didn't see them battling at all. Ceballos and Velez coming home in P4 and 5. A little bit of distance between them, but still definitely prioritizing that team game. Roger Keller, as a matter of fact, on the final lap, managed to get past Julia, I think it was, or rather Iman. So it wasn't exactly holding station for Roger Keller. He definitely tried a thing and it worked out for him there. He did it on the straight. I was watching those three because I really wanted to see if they were going to battle for position on the final lap in such a good position for Arteta Racing. But they managed to come home and it's a good points haul. Now in the reverse grid, we're going to see Michael McName on pole, Villavicencio P2, P3 will be Julia Brown, 4 and 5 will be Roger Kello and Iman Rayan. And the man at the back of the grid, well, in P10 will be Estefano Barrera, the likes of Michelle Wallace, Charles Eastman, Eaton, Johannes, Jaden Harrison, and Raven will be exactly where you see them now on your screen from P11 going down to P17, as those who finished outside the top 10 will not be included in the reversal of grid positions. So they definitely have the most to
Lots of
do here,
work
but
to do.
definitely. But we saw what Tim was able to do. He was able to take a drive-through penalty and come back to finish on the podium. So we're not going to count them out. And I'll definitely want to be seeing what Villavicencio can do from, starting there up at the front row off the grid. Julia Brown as well with her teammates, Roger Keller and Iman Ryan behind. Those three are in a prime position to score even more points for their team. And of course, we expect Barrera, Ceballos, and Velez to be putting those lap times in and cutting and dicing up the field to bring home some more points for Nova Racing, who are at this point basically running away with the championship at this stage of the series. We're almost finished
Absolutely.
with the radical section of the series. We will be visiting Yas Marina, is it, Chad?
I
In
believe
the
so.
next
For the final, I think that is the final round. It's 4 rounds, right? So, yeah, but we will discuss that when we get there because we're about to get the lights again. And again, ladies and gentlemen, the safety car will take the lead for the formation lap when we do get lights out, and we will have a rolling start following the formation lap. So sit tight and we will get going racing again soon. But yeah, no, this radical championship kill has been something to watch. Certainly the first 3 rounds have produced some good racing action, some incidents, but it is to be expected in motor racing. But we will certainly be looking to what the drivers can do in the coming series as well. But as you mentioned, one more race to go here this evening and a race next week before we can start talking about the next round of competitions, as Michael McName, they're getting away very slowly behind the safety car. Not sure what happened there, if he was just waiting to get a little bit of distance to kind of throw some immediate heat into those tires with a little bit of a burnout behind the safety car. But the drivers are lining up and we have a formation lap to go before these drivers have it all to do again. My eyes will be on the likes of Jaden Harrison all the way down there in P17 along with his teammate Raven Plummer behind. Mark Anthony Eaton, I'm a little bit shocked at the performance that we got in the first race. I'm not sure what incidents led to him being that far down the order, so we will see if we can get some improvement from him here in the second race. But Estefano Barrera, another driver to watch, starting in P10. We will see how quickly he can, as Kale nicely puts it, slice and dice his way through the field, as well as Tim Stahl just ahead of him to try and make amends for the errors that happened in the first race. Yeah, we have lots to watch and lots to digest as we head into this second race, Scale. So as we are rounding out, well, we are about halfway through sector 1, and we will be, I seem to have lost my commentary partner. I'm not sure what happened there. We will see if he rejoins us in a few moments time. But as we are rounding out sector 2, the safety car has pulled away from the field, so control of the pace will fall to the man on pole, Michael McName, who is to control the grid from pole position heading around turn 9 to get back to the start line for us to go racing once again. We will see if he can hold on for any duration of time with the likes of Via Vicentia right alongside him. Julia Brown, Roger Keller, Iman Ryan, also drivers that showed decent pace in the first race, could be taking the fight there to McName at the start of this race. We are heading towards the final corner now, ladies and gentlemen. As the drivers round the final corner, you should see the safety car speed limit come up on screen, which should be 81 kilometers. The drivers will have to hold that pace all the way down until they get the green light to go racing, and we await what comes next when we do get those lights. 4.45 kilometers worth of racetrack, and we have the red light. As soon as it goes green, we are off and going once again, and we have the light. Michael McName seems to have gotten away quite nicely, but there is already drivers lining up behind to take the fight to Michael McName, and there was some collision there, and I'm sure that will result in a safety car as we see drivers tumbling down the order. Stephen Pommels, Julia Brown, and Iman Ryan seem to have been involved in an incident there, as we see Daniel Velez running off the circuit, and I do believe the call was for a safety car, as we see Daniel Velez there tumbling down the order and rejoins to take back his position. I think that is what he is doing there. And Mark Anthony Eaton finds himself all the way up in P9 out of the carnage that took place on lap 1, and I am not sure why he is moving himself up the order there. He has gone. I am not, is he a lap down? I'm not entirely sure what Mark is doing, but Mark has pulled ahead of the field and is going. But Michael McName is the driver in the lead of the race and should be controlling the pace. Strange things going on here at this stage of the game. Michael McName in the lead, looking up and down the order. Jaden Harrison finds himself in the final points paying position there. Raven Plummer not improving along with him throughout that, whatever that carnage that ensued was. Estefano Barrera moves up to P8. Tim Stahl in P5 is going to be looking very racy when we get going again in a few moments time. I believe Mark Anthony Eaton pulled ahead of the field to go and take a pit stop, maybe suffering some serious damage there at the time of collision. So we have about 3 corners to go before we get back to the line, so that gives Mark about 25 seconds to get that pit stop done. And oh, I believe that is a drive-through that Mark had. Okay, maybe jumped the start there at the flag and took his drive-through. Now we'll have to wait on the rest of the field to rejoin and go racing. So we are rounding the final corner. There is Kale Seem to have suffered a little bit of technical difficulties there, eh?
Yep, a little bit of technical difficulty, but it seems as though there was some difficulties suffered on this side as well. I was away for about 2 seconds, and here we are taking drive-throughs on this virtual safety car restarts. It all happened while I was away. You know, you turn your back for 5 seconds and and everything goes down. But
Absolutely,
it's
yeah.
about to go down again at the end of this countdown here. 3, 2, 1, and we're looking for that go to get racing one more time here. Our own Phillip Island racing circuit, and it's marked, well, rather, it's name for JSRA Team C that is in the lead and keeping that lead from Tim Stahl and Luis Daniel Velez behind him. Velez on the outside. The outside becomes the inside, and I think that's going to be Velez trying to make a move for the lead of this race. And he make that move? He makes that move, and now it's going to be McName on the grass, and that promotes Tim Stahl up into P2. Villavicencio and Mikhail Charles moving up as well. There's McName fighting with Ceballos for position to make it a JSRA 4 and 5, but Ceballos gets the better of him, and there's Mikhail Charles side by side with Villavicencio heading through turn 4 now. Chad, it is a lot of side by side action here. It seems as though maybe I'm the good luck charm when I came back. Now they're racing cleanly.
Yeah, no,
But
I thought I might have heard a call for the safety car there, but it turns out I was mistaken. But Ceballos and Mikhail Charles are definitely going at it. Maybe you are the good luck charm, Kale, as these drivers are looking quite racy here in the last 15 minutes of action this evening, as we are looking up and down the field. Mitch and Wallace find themselves in a good position. They're running in P8 with Jaden Harrison right behind him. Jaden Harrison might be looking to make up a few more positions to make amends for the first race and how poorly it went for him. His teammate Raven Plummer not looking so hot in this one, and there is a massive accident there. Not sure who that was. We saw a lot of smoke there, but that is, I believe that was Eaton tumbling down the order. I'm not. Ooh, and there goes.
And it's more carnage. I think that's going to be a safety car. We have cars all over the track at this point, and most of them not even on the track. That was a massive shunt for Mikhail Charles. That car will definitely need to visit the pits to be repaired.
Yeah,
It
Mitch
seems
and
as though we're
Wallace
still.
also seems to have been involved there. But that finds Jaden Harrison in P4. Tim Stahl somehow in all of that chaos got demoted to P8. I think you're getting at the fact that we're still racing, but I'm not so sure, Kale. It looks like we are on the safety car conditions. The leaders maybe just going a little too quickly, as Mikhail Charles finds himself in P1. I'm telling you, this man has just been showing us that, well, we are racing. My apologies, I seem to have been the one that is mistaken there. But Mikhail Charles has just found himself in excellent positions time and time again over this weekend of racing action. The drivers behind him still trying to fight it out, as Johannes Kandro there looking to attack the likes of McName and Pommels, who are on the same team but look to be having a little bit of a squabble, and that gifts Kandro one of the positions, maybe both, as he should have the slipstream to take advantage there coming on to start finish straight. Maybe stepping out of the slipstream a little too early, but it may not matter, as it looks like he does have enough pace to get ahead by the time we get to the turning point for the first turn. And I believe Pommels there was trying to cover it off, but may have put himself out of position there on the exit of that corner. I am having trouble keeping up here, Kale. There seems to be action going on everywhere. Mark Anthony Eaton just got promoted a few positions, as that is Kimani Eastman tumbling down the order. Jaden Harrison seems to just be sitting pretty in P4 at the moment, not making much inroads in the drivers ahead. Raven Plummer all of a sudden up into P9. There is position changes taking place very aggressively up and down the order, as Pommelzer gets the position from Ryan, and Estefana Barrera is taking the fight to Mark Anthony Eaton. But that is one driver that knows how to defend around the racetrack, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult for Estefana to get that move done in this section of the track. Maybe has to wait for, well, no, sorry, got it done. That is the driving prowess of the Colombian there, Estefana Barrera, just getting that move done. that's not even really a braking zone. So just getting the better drive through that section of the racetrack and taking that position away from Mark Anthony Eaton. Raven Plummer behind in P9 may want to join that fight, but I'm not sure if she has the pace of those two drivers ahead. Eaton not really giving it up though, is trying to use the slipstream as the drivers are doing a little bit of weaving down the straight. We will see what the stewards think of that a little bit later on, but Barrera there getting another position away from McNamara. Will Eaton try to follow him through? He certainly seems to be thinking along those lines and manages to get that move done and is sticking with Estefano Barrera this time around, maybe thinking they can use each other to get themselves a little bit further up the order. They have about 3 seconds before they catch up to the rear wing of Johannes Kandro. So we will see if they're able to do that. But Jaden Harrison now maybe looking to take the fight to Ceballos ahead, is about half a second adrift as we are heading on to, I believe that is the start of, well, the middle of Sector 2. So we will see how close Jaden can keep it. If he manages to keep it close by the time we get back to the start-finish straight, maybe that slipstream advantage will see him promoted up onto the podium, which would be the drive he needs after an abysmal first race, you know, maybe making some amends here. And I'm not sure what happened to Tim Stahl. Tim in the pits down there in 15. He looked to be in a good position early on, but that has not materialized. However, Jaden Harrison here still giving chase to Ceballos. I believe he is close enough for the strip stream, but that is a long way back before that move can be made. And Mikhail Charles, with the lead of the race, is doing everything he can to keep that advantage. Puts in the fastest lap of the race, immediately undone by Estefano Barrera down there in P6. So maybe Estefano thinking it's do or die time with 9-ish minutes to play here in the second race scale.
Yeah, it's just a few minutes left to go in this race, and it's looking good. I mean, at the start of this event, we were saying that JSRA Team C are definitely ones to look out for, and as a matter of fact, a JSRA Team C member, Mikhail Charles, is leading the race at this point in time, and he's not just leading it. It wasn't just gifted to him. He's maintaining that lead. You know, it's around 1 second is the gap to Villavicencio behind, but they're in P2, 3, and 3 are Nova Racing Team A drivers carrying home points for their team. Jaden Harrison, who finished outside the top 10, finds himself in P4, battling it out with Ceballos behind. Perhaps not working. It's not working out for him thus far. He's gotten very close. He's very close indeed, heading around the final corner now. This may be the chance for Jaden Harrison to get past the Colombian ahead of him. He has one hand on the podium, but needs to get past Ceballos in order to cement his grasp on that final podium step. And there goes Jaden Harrison down the inside and finds himself now in P3, getting past the Colombian. Johannes Kandra behind Ceballos in P5. Sort of in a no man's land, not close enough to attack Ceballos, but a bit of a gap to Barrera behind. I don't think that's going to last very much longer, although Barrera may be coming under pressure from Eaton behind as well, who finds himself now in P7. Roger Keller battling it out with Stephen Pommels trying to get that extra position, and it looks as though he may be getting it. He's on the outside here for the hairpin. It's not where you want to be, and Pommels, who drove a fantastic race for the first race, holds off the Arteta Racing driver for another couple of corners. He's now being a little bit backed up by his teammate Michael McName. He has caught him expeditiously, if I do say so. And I'm not sure if McName is going to realize that he needs to let Stephen Pommels go, or if he's going to try and drag him along here as they're heading now down into the tight right-hander before they head down the start-finish straight again. And Villavicencio getting real close to Mikhail Charles now. It's a 130.7 for Mikhail, a 130.5 from Villavicencio. He may be looking at taking the lead of this race and possibly the race win. Very close there in the braking zone into turn 2. But Mikhail Charles, he won he won last night in CTCC
by
around San
putting
Carlos,
on
and I
some
think
brilliant defense. Yes, he did. So we will see if he can manage to mount that defense again. But if this fight drags on for too much longer, Kale, Jaden Harrison there in the background just waiting for something to pop off so that he can get into the mix. And Johannes Kandro behind is catching Ceballos. So Jade might not be under much threat from behind, but is about a second away from the front two, who are still duking it out for the top spot at the moment. Villavicencio not giving Mikhail Charles much time there to think about what he's doing, just needs to position that car very nicely, although the positioning of the car will not matter when you get onto the start-finish straight. The slipstream has been proven to be quite effective around this track, and about 3/10 a gap between these two. Mikhail Charles there looks like he got a good drive out of the final corner, but the good drive may not be enough, as Villavicencio they're closing him down as they round the final corner and is right there on his rear wing. The two side by side, neck and neck up the start finish straight. I think Charles will have the inside line, but is it enough? No, he has to just tuck into the slipstream as they round the first corner, and that could be all she wrote. Mikhail Charles there though trying to dive up the inside and does get that move done, so retakes the lead of the race there, not giving up without a fight, Mikhail Charles, and he is proving again that he has the minerals to push through these races, but is now the two still running neck and neck around the track. Has the inside line. Can he get it done cleanly? No, loses it on the apex, maybe trying to get the power down a little too in earnest, and it cost him. But Jaden Harrison now right with Carlos Villavicencio coming out of turn 8, I believe that is turn 6, sorry.
I can confirm, Chad. There, it came up on my screen for the live timing. There was the slightest of contact with front splitter of Villavicencio and the rear diffuser of Mikhail Charles. Just the slightest of contact between them, resulting in that spin there for Mikhail. Ladies and gentlemen, that was for the lead of the race. But however you shake it, it's going to be Carlos Villavicencio in the lead of the race now, under immense pressure from Jaden Harrison for JSRA Team A behind Andre Ceballos in P3, with Johannes Kandra in P4 for Arteta Racing. Johannes really pulling out all the stops here. I think this track definitely suiting the Arteta Racing driver. And here's Jaden Harrison for the lead of the race, going down the inside of Villavicencio, but Villavicencio learned a thing or two from Mikhail Charles in the previous lap, just rolling off the brakes there and retaking the lead. Jaden's gonna have to try again, but he is still right there. I think he is side by side. Yep. Fender to quarter, and they're heading now through turn 3. Jaden on the outside for the hairpin. He's going to try the switchback. Will he? No, he tries to go around the outside like he did at Dover. Will it work for him?
It seems.
I'm not sure, but it works. And Jaden finds himself now back into the lead of this race. He hasn't seen the lead for quite some time now, but he is definitely trying his best for JSRA Team A. But Carlos is still there, Chad. Will he be able to retake that lead? It's a battle like I haven't seen before, because we haven't seen Jaden fighting very much at the front here in these races in the Radical SR3 XXR. But here he is, 2 minutes plus a lap left in this race. Here's Carlos going down the inside, heading onto, or rather into the final corner. They'll be side by side, going down the start-finish straight. Jaden tucks into the slipstream.
I think that may have been intentional by Jaden Harrison, just allows him to get the advantage onto the start finish straight, knowing that you have the advantage of the slipstream, and pulls out right as we are heading into the turning point and has the inside line there, gets that position back, and Jaden Harrison retakes the lead of this race, looking a little bit more comfortably in the lead this time as opposed to the previous attempts at taking the lead. However, Villavicencio not going to give it up that easily, still sticking with him, and this has allowed Andres Ceballos and Estefano Barrero to get close into the mix. Estefano Barrera about a second behind Ceballos, and Ceballos within a second of these two drivers. Jaden Harrison needs to make this move stick and get a little bit of breathing space between himself and the three Noble Racing drivers behind him. That is gonna be pressure like he has not felt all series long. Like you said, he has not really been in this position, but he has a pack of sharks behind him at the moment and is trying to hold on to the lead. We have about 40 seconds left on the clock. I'm not sure if time will elapse by the time they get back to the line, so it may be 2 laps, it could be 1. We will see when he rounds the final corner. I believe it will be 2 laps because where he is on the racetrack now, he should get back to the line before time elapses. So we will have the upcoming lap plus 1 more to go by the time he crosses the line. And with the drivers behind him, I think Jaden Harrison will be coming under the pressure by the time we get to turn 1 via Vicencio. About half a second back. I don't think that is close enough to get it done. Jaden Harrison was 6/10 quicker on that lap. So he manages to keep the lead into turn 1, and Jaden Harrison needs to drive the lap of his life with the 3 Wolfpack behind him. Ceballos, Villavicencio, and Barrera, not in that order, are right there waiting to pounce on any mistake from the JSRA driver, and they could be playing the team game here. Maybe somebody attacks to give somebody else an opportunity to take the move into one of these corners, but Jaden Harrison playing it very nicely so far as they are all right there. There are other things happening, ladies and gentlemen, but this is for the lead, and we will be sticking with this battle all the way back to the line. The drivers behind right there trying to get something, maybe pressure Jaden into a mistake, or just getting the door open for one of their teammates for Noble Racing to secure both victories here this evening. And Jaden Harrison is pulling out all the stops on this defense. Got a little bit elbows out there on Villavicencio in that corner, and now Jaden Harrison just needs to get the power down on the run to the line. Will anybody be able to catch him before we get there? They will have the slipstream advantage as we are now going to the line for the end of this race. We will be getting a very close finish here. Jaden Harrison will manage to hold on, comes across the line. We have 1 more lap.
Just 1 more lap, but Barrera has managed to catch up to his teammates. We may even see if they move out the way here to allow Barrera to have 1 last go. We know he, at this point in time, is definitely the fastest Colombian out there on the track. And Jaden Harrison, the lone JSRA Team A member, trying to hold on to the lead of this race. He's managing quite well in the high-speed sections, but on the run up here to the hairpin, they managed to catch right back up to him via Vicencio. But Jaden is holding on, trying to position that car in the perfect spots around the track to ensure that they may get close, but they can't get past. And he's doing an excellent job of that thus far. But here's Villavicencio in the slipstream, through the left, now through the right, coming up to the left-hander again. There's a car parked on the outside of this corner here that may suit Jaden. He switches back now down to the inside to cover him off, heading into the tight right-hander. Jaden is definitely pulling out all the stops here. It's an excellent defensive masterclass from Jaden here, but I think this may be it. There's contact between Villavicencio and Jaden Harrison, and Harrison holds on to that lead, and now it's Ceballos from Jaden Harrison. Barrera behind him as well. Jaden now coming around the final corner. It's going to be a drag race. Can Harrison hold on for the lead? It's going to be a photo finish, but it's Jaden Harrison for JSRA Team A coming across the line. 500ths of a second ahead of Andres Ceballos. Estefano Barrera finishes in P3 for the top Colombians. Mark Anthony Eaton, a disastrous first race, but almost got a podium there, finishing in P4. Mikhail Charles had the lead of the race, but unfortunately for him, finds himself finishing in P5. Johannes Kandra Kusuma Putra, an excellent race for the Artito driver. Carlos Villavicencio, oh my goodness, I know he's going to be kicking and screaming, punching air right now. He almost had Jaden, but just couldn't keep it together in the final moments, right when it mattered. Raven Plummer Well, I think she'll be saying at least now she's finally up the lead JSRA teammate driver this time around here at Phillip Island. Michael McNain finishes in P9, and Stephen Pommels in P10. It's going to be Roger Killer, Kimana Eastman in P11 and 12, respectively. Julia Brown coming across the line in P13, just shy of the final points paying position. And Luis Daniel Velez and Mission Wallace in P14 and 15. Emmanuel and Tim Stahl in the pits, 16th and 17th, respectively, for those drivers. Chad, that was quite an intense finish. It's got me leaning forward in my seat.
Oh,
Jane
trust me.
Harrison.
Trust me.
An
That
excellent drive.
was a defense of defenses there by Jaden Harrison. A little bit unfortunate how it ended between him and Vicencio, but that again, ladies and gentlemen, shows you that Noble Racing team is not to be trifled with. They had 3 drivers attacking for the lead of the race, with the lone JSRA member there sitting in front like prey to a lion, trying to keep ahead. Managed to hold on by 500ths of a second in the end there, and comes across the line to take victory in the second race for JSRA Team A, which I'm sure they would be grateful for that points haul, given that they had the struggles in the races previously.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, it's still a good points haul for the Colombians, but Jaden Harrison finally winning one of these races it's going to be a good points haul for JSRA Team A as well, with Raven Plummer finishing in P8, getting some points for her team there as well. Mikhail Charles, Stephen Pommels, and I believe Kimani Eastman also getting good points for JSRA Team C there. The Artito Racing driver and my personal driver of the day, it's going to be Johannes Kandra Kusuma Putra, who I think outdid themselves and defended from the likes of Tim Stahl, defended from their own teammates, Roger Keller and Emmanuel. And, it was, they found themselves in the middle of the pack for majority of the race, but defending from some Titan talents there and finishing in a good position, if I do say so myself, for both races. Um, Arteta there collecting some good points in the first race, not so good in the second race, with the man finishing in P16 and Roger Keller only in 11th, but it's still points on the board. Vicencio. Oh, wow. I can only imagine what Carlos would be feeling at this moment in time. He wasn't the one to take the fight in the end to Jaden. It was Ceballos, and it was oh so close for the Colombian. 500ths of a second was the gap between them. That is the definition of a photo finish. It rarely gets closer than that, and Jaden Harrison would have been trying to get everything up the car, trying to push his foot even flatter through the floor
Oh,
to
I'm
get a
telling
little
you.
extra juice out of that radical, but in the end
Absolutely.
manages to take it home in with another victory, or with his first victory, I believe, in this series.
Absolutely. So right now we will be talking to some of the drivers, starting with the man who took the podium for JSRA Team A in the first race, Tim Stalls. Tim, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so all in all, not a great event for JSRA Team A, but you did manage to get a podium in the first race. Talk to us about the overall event.
We could have had at least 2 podiums. I don't want to say much. I don't have to say much. I don't have much to say, rather. I really don't. I mean, the tires were cold, the cars are sketchy, we are all running sketchy setups. There's a reason to be careful in lap 1 with cold tires or cars as sketchy as these. And I don't know why my teammate, who is over 2/10 a lap slower than me, is following me 0.1 millimeters from my bumper. It was indeed, I'm sorry, but it was a dumb move. And it ruined both our races, and it ruined another double podium for JSRA. I'm happy that at least the car stayed intact, so I could do a nice, P17 to P3 run. But honestly, this should not have happened. Yeah, that's about all I will say.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment, and I'm not sure what happened there in race 2 for you. Saw you pull back into the pits. Any particular reason?
Yes, my car was broken. I was too far off the lead. I had broken suspension, broken aero, broken transmission. And I was just being a hazard out on track, and I had no hopes of catching up. So I decided that instead of endangering others and risking to destroy another race of someone, if I can't catch up anyways, I just retired the car. There was no real reason for me to keep going.
That's a fair
Yeah.
assessment, but
The only thing I would have done would have been to endanger others, and I didn't see why being an obstacle on track, having to take corners 30 or 40 kph slower, I didn't see how that was beneficial to anyone.
that's a fair assessment, Tim. Yeah, obviously frustrations with how the event played out, but time to regroup, maybe have a team discussion, and come back stronger for the next event. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Okay, that was Tim Stahl for JSRA Team A. Next, we will be talking to Andres Ceballos, who almost took the victory there in the second race. Andres, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
A very close finish there in the second race between yourself and Jaden Harrison, almost getting the victory 500ths of a second. Talk us through the event.
Well, it was a tough one, I kind of struggled a little bit in the middle race, but on the end, I could catch up the guys in front because they were battling, and almost we got the first place. So, very, very, how can I say, happy about it, but I won the win.
Absolutely. And Noble Racing now, I think, very commandingly in the lead in this competition. You guys are taking the JSRA by force at the moment. How are you feeling going into the next race?
We don't feel confident because we have to fight. The level is very tough, so we have to keep practicing. The setup is I think that the principal key to be in front. So you have to start practicing again and again because the guys are very, very fast too. So we kind of breathe a little bit, but you kind of sleep here. So we keep looking. We will keep doing our job to be in front.
Nothing more to do but that. Well, congratulations again, Andres, and we look forward to seeing what comes next.
All right, thank you.
Okay. And next up, we should be talking to Mr. Jaden Harrison. Jaden, can you hear me?
Yeah.
A battle of the ages there in the second race. Talk us through the events of that.
Well, I didn't expect to do that great in the second race, starting at the back, basically last, but I lifted, stayed out of the incident, and got past, and we just had to catch back up to everybody and, try hold out. As Carlos was on the mediums, I knew I was at a big disadvantage towards the end, so I was just parking the car where I could and trying to hold him off. I think we got an incident at the start which caused the teammate to, get a run on me at the end, so that was a very close finish, but it was a okay race. Didn't expect to do that good. Have a couple of incidents to review, but
Absolutely. Well, taking the victory in the second race, a very rough first race though. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I just wasn't prepared for the conditions.
Fair enough.
Couldn't get locked in.
Oh, well, all right, Jaden. As I told your teammate, just time to regroup and come back stronger for the next one, yeah?
Yeah.
All right. And finally, we will be talking to Estefano Barrero. Estefano, can you hear me? Estefano? Hello? Okay, it seems that Estefano is not at his computer at the moment, so I think we will have to wrap it up there. Would have been nice to hear from him as he won the first race and came rather close in the second race there to improving his position. But yeah, I think that, ladies and gentlemen, will conclude our event here this evening. Yeah, Kale, any final thoughts?
Yeah, this has definitely been quite a topsy-turvy race, with, specifically Arteta Racing and JSRA Team C coming in very strongly here around Phillip Island. But, it's only the third event in the Chase for Pace series, and the official season is underway. If you would like to get on track and join the ranks of the best sim racers in the Caribbean, feel free to message on Instagram to get started with registration, or become a member today to get ultimate access to a growing community and resources to take your skills to the next level. This is only the start of an already exciting season, and the drivers are still rearing and ready to prove who is the fastest. Continue to watch the action unfold and support your favorite driver by following on Twitch and YouTube and tuning in live on the Sports Max app. Stay in the loop by following us on social media, on Instagram at JSRA Official, find us on Facebook, Jamaica Simulation Racing Association, and watch us live and or replays, as well as new content coming out on YouTube at JSRA 876. It's been my absolute pleasure to watch the racing action unfold here tonight, Chad. I have been Kilvin Ropo.
And
Thanks
I
for
have
watching.
been Chad Dillon. Thanks again for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen, and we will see you again very soon. We are coming up to as
man, so
there is a run.
outside. Oh yeah.
Ooh, he tried the switcheroo.
We all know what this is gonna be. You came and failed the test, you met the best, expected chess, but got monopoly. I came and bought you out, I knocked you out, I crouched you out with no apologies. I am the hope, the heart, the fate, the spark, the one who will fulfill the prophecy. I just been counting, never lounging, climbing up mountains, bouncing back. Step in the ring, about you step back. They'll learn hot when I get on the track. I like it louder the most. Watching all these sheep just bow down to the goat. If I can't decide, I'ma probably get both. We done celebrate, but right now I'm a toast. Resurrected
Here is Eastman going side by side with Jaden Harrison. Jaden Harrison took him on the inside, but Eastman says no and closes the door. But here he is now about to lose 2 positions heading into the penultimate corner. Now coming through the final corner, can Moss get past Eastman as well?